Thank you for your patience. We're convening the joint committees with the Committee on Energy, Intergovernmental Affairs and the Committee on Government Operations on this Tuesday, March 18th at 3 o'clock in room 016. This hearing is being streamed live on YouTube. So if there's any type of technical difficulties, we will post notice as to when we will reconvene this hearing. For those who are testifying, we're going to limit your testimony. I'm feeling generous today to 2 minutes, not 1 minute usually, but 2 minutes for today. We have one item on this agenda that is House Bill 344 HD1 relating to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. On our testifiers list, we have Mark Blick from the State Energy Office.
Chris Junker on behalf of Mark Blick for the Hawaii State Energy Office. Chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, we stand on our written testimony in support and are available for questions.
Thank you, Chris. Keith Reagan from DAGS.
Chair, Vice Chairs, Keith Regan, Comptroller, State of Hawaii Department of Accounting and General Services. Send our written testimony in support of this measure. Happy to answer any questions you may have, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you, Keith. Kirby Shaw from the Disabilities and Communication Access Board has.
You have the fan on for things.
Thank you. Leah Larrabee has submitted testimony in support. Ted Boland has indicated he might be here, but is not, and has submitted testimony in support. And Timur Taufai. Thank you, from Hawai'i Electric. And we have Tiffany Yajima from the Automobile Association that might be joining us via Zoom.
Not present on Zoom, Chair.
That's all I have. Well, members, we have, I would guesstimate another 20 individuals all in support for this measure. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in person or on Zoom? If not, members, any questions? Okay, and
Yeah, I do.
That's the one. Oh, wait, we got one. Go.
Keith Reagan.
Thank God.
So this requires a design of all new buildings to include electric vehicle charger ready parking stalls. Is this gonna increase the cost of the new buildings, and if so, by how much?
It may increase the cost, but I think it'll be nominal because if you design it properly from the get-go, you can accommodate, the additional infrastructure that's necessary to eventually place the parking stations.
Okay, but I
I can't tell
mean,
you exactly how much it's gonna, because things are in so much flux right now as it relates to
yeah,
tariffs and everything else, so I couldn't tell you exactly how much it's gonna cost. But ballpark, maybe 10 and 15,000 additional per stall, maybe, I don't know, something in that ballpark.
25%.
Pretty nominal in the big scheme of things.
As a general rule, how much do you allocate for parking for new building construction?
Well, that's all driven by county codes and, the requirements there, so, it would just be dependent on the size of the overall facility.
So,
I can't tell you because
so for
I didn't
instance,
have
if you're
it.
gonna rebuild a state capitol, which should house about, I don't know, 150 or so, how many parking stalls are you required to build? And so, because I want to know how much 25% is that I can't use.
Well, it's not that you can't use them, it's just that they would have to be ready to be, have that infrastructure installed, the charging station installed at some point
Okay,
down the road. So they could potentially still be used for regular parking.
okay, but so how many?
It's like that.
It's not like a 1-for-1 for every office.
No.
There should be at least one parking
Based on
stall.
square footage of the building, the use of the building.
So for a building this size,
Again, when this building was constructed back in the 60s, the requirement was a lot different than what it is today. So I don't have the city's specifications in front of me right now.
Okay, it doesn't require you to actually build the charger, just make it ready,
For new facilities, correct. And
which
then
means to
HS
have the wiring.
Or at least the conduits to be able to run wiring through it. So again, the cost is pretty nominal, right? And then also making sure that the electrical infrastructure can accommodate an eventual expansion, of those EV charging stations. That's been our biggest challenge, right, with existing facilities, is that the actual infrastructure needs to catch up to the demand to be able to deploy more charging stations.
Okay. Okay,
Any further questions? Okay, if not, the two chairs have conferred and would like to go ahead and make a few suggested amendments. We're going to take the amendments suggested by the Hawaii State Energy Office, which there are two of them. First, the bill right now contemplates us building parking structures and then outfitting them with 25% EV charging, but doesn't talk about any building that might have just a black asphalt lot. So we like to expand the reach of this bill so that if in case that were the case, that there'd be a on-grade parking lot that would be covered under this bill as well. We're going to add language as suggested by the State Energy Office to put in level 1 or level 3 charging when it's appropriate. And those are the two suggested amendments. Any discussion?
yeah, so my question is, so now the state is gonna be required to come up with level 1 and level 3 charging instead of just making it charger accessible?
Well, that's what the State Energy Office wanted, and it's not mandating it, just when appropriate.
And there's no cost associated with how much we're gonna. Okay, well, I have severe reservations for this.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I agree with getting ready. But I am a little concerned about infrastructure, and I think a more top story needs to be there. So I'll be supporting, but with reservations.
We're waiting for. We have.
You got quorum.
Yeah, we do.
Both sides has quorum.
Yeah.
We both can.
Sure.
Charge.
Okay, for the Committee on Energy Intergovernmental Affairs, I stated the two suggested amendments and would like to take a vote on it, and I vote yes. Senator Richards, if you could please take their vote for the committee.
On House Bill 344, House Draft 1, passing with amendments, Chair votes aye. Vice Chair is excused. Senator Coit. I vote with reservation, and Senator Favela is excused. Chair, you have 3 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee on Government Operations, same recommendation. Senate Draft 1, Vice Chair, I vote yes.
Vice Chair also votes yes. Senator Morawaki excused. Senator San Buenaventura
Reservations.
and Senator Fadella is excused. The measure passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for your patience. We are convening the Committee on Energy Intergovernmental Affairs, it's about 3:02 in room 016 on this Tuesday, March 18th. We have one item on this agenda that is House Bill 1001 HD1 SD1. And our testifiers list, we have Will King or someone from the governor's. Oh, Will's here. Oh, you're everywhere.
Get my exercise today. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Will King, Office of the Governor. We stand strong support of HB 1001. And we hope that obviously the importance of this bill for the Maui Wildfire Settlement Trust Fund, and so I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Will.
Wow.
Randall Nishiyama from the Attorney General's Office.
Good afternoon, Chair, Deputy Attorney General Reese, Randall Nishiyama, and on behalf of the Department of the Attorney General. Chair and committee members, good afternoon again. We submitted our written testimony with comments in support of this bill. This bill supports the Maui Wildfires Agreement and supports the portion of the state's contribution to the settlement. I will be here for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Reese. Alice Lee from the County of Maui has submitted testimony in support. Evan Oe has submitted testimony in support. And we might have Tom Yamachika on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Yamachika for Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We will stand our written testimony be available for questions.
We got it. Thank you, Tom. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Okay. Scott Hsu, since you're there, can we ask you to come forward?
Kai, members of the committee, just introducing myself, Scott Hsu, President and CEO of EIG.
How come you didn't submit testimony?
I'm willing to support and testify in support of this bill.
I know, but you didn't submit any written testimony. And in the previous committee, there's no testimony support either. This is your number one priority bill, correct?
It is a priority that the settlement can be funded, absolutely.
So why wouldn't you support your own bill?
Well, let me just to clarify, Senator, we feel that this settlement to be able to move forward is absolutely critical. That all of the parties be able to contribute what we agreed to, and at HEI Home Electric, we are there. So this particular bill is very important in order to keep the entire settlement going forward. Yeah, I don't have any excuse for why we did not submit written support, but we do strongly support this.
Okay. I am looking at your financials, and I'm looking at your fourth quarter financial results, these slides, and I see that you've secured $479 million. You've set aside for your first payment of your $2 billion portion of the judgment, and then you are fully expecting about $523 million more from the ATM program. That's going to give you $250 million. Utility accounts receivable, credit facility, $239 million, and a credit facility capacity for $34 million. So it looks like you are in good shape to cover your first two payments. So about half of the $2 billion. How are you going to pay the last $1 billion?
So we plan to use a combination of debt as well as issuing more equity in the coming years. So just to reiterate some of the points that you just made, Senator. So in September of last year at HEI, we did go to the markets and we basically sold HEI stock, and that allowed us to raise the amounts to cover the first installment, right? The first settlement payment. So we set that aside, and we'll be ready to make that payment once the court gives final approval for the settlement, which we expect by the end of this year. We sold ASB at the end of the year, so that has allowed us to pay down our existing debt, which now positions us to be able to raise through debt the second installment payment, which would be due a year later. And then the third and the fourth installment payments, we would be again using a combination of taking on more debt and then also selling more HEI stock to raise those last two payments.
Yeah, but you know, when you talk about you're going to take on more debt, and then considering where you are now, which is junk bond status, I mean, that debt is going to be very expensive debt for you to put on the books, correct?
It will be more expensive because you're correct. We are not investment grade anymore. We are required though, right, when I mentioned the sale of the ESB, we're required by our existing debt agreements that we have to use those proceeds from the sale of the bank to first pay down that debt. If we had the choice, we wouldn't do it that way. We would just maintain the existing debt. But that's the requirement. In the future, when we get to the third and fourth installment payments, our desire is that we will have continued to make progress in terms of shoring up the financial strength of the company. Perhaps we'll see some improvement in terms of the credit ratings 3 years from now or what have you. And so we would hope that we would be able to take on that debt at, hopefully not as bad pricing.
Right now, this bill contemplates the state putting in north of $800 million. And we're going to put it in 2 tranches. And from your payment plan, it sounds like it's going to be put up in 4 pieces. Could we do the same with our 800 million? So as you put in your first 500 million or so, we'll put up our first 200 million. You put in your next 500 million, we'll put in at that time 400 million. And then we kind of parcel this out to meet your payments.
So my understanding is that all of the contributors towards the settlement do have that option to pay off in 4 installment payments. Let me just glance over my shoulder. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but that is my understanding. But I would have to probably go back and clarify what other defendants are allowed to do. But I know for sure we have that.
Okay, so you don't mind us if we put that language in here that from the state standpoint, as all of you defendants put in your contributions, will match up as you put in your money.
The only caveat on that one, Senator, is I would want to make sure that whatever is part of the official settlement agreement, it's consistent with that. Right. So again, if the settlement agreement allows for that 4 installment payments for all defendants, then absolutely that would be. You don't want to go counter to whatever is now right.
Well, the problem is like none of us have seen the settlement agreement, so I'm not too sure like what the understanding is between all of the parties, but okay. Members, any further questions for Mr. Hsu? Nope. Thank you.
I think we're good. Thank you. No,
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
AG, Mr. Reese. Good afternoon. You've seen the settlement agreement, correct?
No, actually, Your Honor, Senator, I have not seen the settlement agreement itself. I have, like I said, I'm just standing in for Randall Chiama, but I can take questions back to him if you would like.
Okay, well, do you think it's reasonable, as I was mentioning to Mr. Hsu, about as each of the defendants puts in their portion, the state will match whatever the defendants put in rather than just, in this bill, it says we're going to drop 400 million and we're going to drop 400 million.
Sorry, Senator, I'm not privy to the mechanics of the settlement agreement in this particular case. Nor have I been involved in the settlement negotiation. I'm not sure if the dynamics that have been going on for the parties, so I can't really say if it's reasonable or not. But I can raise that question with those who have in my office, if you'd like.
We talked much about HECO and their contributions, but I'm not sure where KS stands, Spectrum, I think the Hawaiian Telecom, Kamehameha Schools, where they are in their allotments. And it seems like all that's guaranteed in this bill is the state's coming in with its 100% of the proceeds. Would it be okay if we put in language here that each of the defendants in this settlement has to provide to you, the AG's office, what their plan is for payment to fulfill their obligations under the settlement agreement?
It's really not for me to say, but I can take back that suggestion. I can, if that is what this committee would like to do. Well, consult with those who have been involved with the negotiations.
Okay.
I'm just not sure what the dynamics are of those positions are. I didn't get a total guess as to whether it was reasonable or not. And it really sees what the position of the department is. But if you'd like me to take back a question to someone, who may have been involved in the negotiation or even, Sunishon. I can.
Okay, also, one final question for you though, is that just want to make sure the payments are going to be put in a timely fashion. I'm trying to think, like, maybe we should have an escrow account for all of the defendants in this, because the state's going to be good for its share of the funds. And then we have the defendants put in 30 days prior to the first, whatever the increment is, if it's once a year for 4 years, that 30 days prior to payment, that these defendants all have to put the money into an escrow that you oversee. Is that plausible?
I can take that scenario back to my department, to see if that would be something that would be workable with that. I can't say right now whether that would be plausible or not, because as I said earlier, having been involved in the dynamics of the negotiations. But I can ask, I mean, I hear your suggestions as being attempting to make something work. Right now, I just can't, say yes or no to that.
Okay. Well, we're going to make some amendments to this bill, and then you can weigh in at the next committee whether it's allowable or reasonable or whatever your thoughts might be.
Okay.
Thank you. Members, excuse me.
Sorry, would you like to submit any question that I should take back, or you?
Oh, no, we're going to make amendments, and then you guys can decipher whether you support or not support those amendments.
Okay.
Members, any further questions? Yep.
Yeah,
Senator
so
Detroit.
are there any lawsuits that this settlement will not cover?
I'm not aware of that. Senator DeCoy, I could find out if you want.
Yeah, and then can you also find out, are there any other costs that the state may have to bear for ongoing wildfire related litigation as well?
Any other costs associated
With wildfire related litigation? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, sure. Just follow up on that.
Member
Yeah.
Richards.
Thank you. It's my understanding this is supposed to be the global POW, right? So, okay, yeah, if we could follow up with that, I'd appreciate that follow-up.
Okay. Senator Chen?
He's itching for questions. Nope. Thank you, Reese.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any further questions of those who are here? Okay, if not, I'm gonna jump straight into decision making on House Bill 1001 HD1 SD1. There's no question that the community needs this global settlement, and Hawaii Electric certainly needs, and HEI needs this. So I think we need to move this forward. I do think, though, that it's not clear as to how not just Hawaii Electric Industries, but all of the defendants. I mean, do they have the money to pony up to pay their fair share? So I'd like to find out if, in fact, how reasonable it is for us to see this global settlement fully realized. So I'm going to amend the bill by just asking that all the defendant parties in the settlement submit a plan and evidence of their ability to pay their share of the settlement as the payments become due under the agreement, and give that to the Attorney General's office for review. Second amendment I'm going to make is that all the defendant parties, other defendant parties, this not the state, but the others, actually fund their share of the settlement 30 days prior to the payments becoming due under the settlement agreement. And they put that money into an escrow that's going to be overseen by the Attorney General, and that all other defendant shares of the settlement will be paid before the state agrees to release its share of the settlement. So we're going to be the last to pay in, because right now, as the bill is outlined, we're the first to pay into this settlement. So we're going to be the last to pay it, to make sure that everybody else pays their fair share, and then we're going to do our obligation as outlined in the bill. So, members, any discussion? If not, Senator Chang, I vote yes.
So Chair's recommendation for HB 1001 is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoy,
Aye.
Senator Richards.
Aye.
Senator Favela is excused. The recommendation is back.
Okay, thank you, members. We are adjourned. Thank you. We are reconvening our Committee on Energy and Intergovernmental Affairs. We have a 302 agenda. This is just for decision-making on three measures that were heard last week with a joint committee with our friends from the Transportation Committee. On House Bill 229 HD1 relating to transportation, TCA had made a number of recommended amendments. 7 actually. First is to amend to restrict the vehicle of 10,000 pounds from left lane on roads with 3 or more lanes going in the same direction. Number 2, also restrict vehicles actively towing another vehicle or trailer. 3, penalties shall be a blank amount for the first offense, blank amount for the second offense, and a blank amount for traffic safety or traffic safety course for both a third offense within 3 years. And the seventh and last amendment are exceptions still apply, excluding vehicles overtaking, turning from the left, and for public transit, school buses, and emergency vehicles as defined in section 291C-26. Those were the amendments agreed to by the Committees on Transportation as well as this Committee on Energy. Any discussion?
Chair,
Yes.
clarification. So it's just for populations 500,000 and more, right?
So, yeah, that's outlined in the bill. Okay,
Thank
yes,
you.
so just You want to put the
Authorized
big
to-
island there?
No, I do not. This is the population of that's one.
No. So it's less than, not more.
Yeah, so it is the big island and not Oahu. Is that what I'm reading?
Yeah, that's what I was asking if the amendment was for populations of more than, because what you gonna do is you can get the more than into the prevention.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Exactly what I'm thinking.
And so in a county with a population of 500,000 or more, so we are establishing statewide speed restrictions and what is outlined. Authorize the
So-
county.
So that's what the amendment is. I don't have the amendment.
Oh, yes,
It was authorized a county for less than 500,000 to adopt an ordinance speed restriction for more vehicles with 2 or more axles.
oh yeah, there's two parts to this.
Yeah, there's 2 parts, so I cannot tell you which part.
Yeah, because what Senator DeCourt's talking about is the cattle trucks.
That
and
or
the ag
tractors
stuff, yeah,
that are
tractors,
pulling with
right.
a slow moving sign, caution sign. That could.
You want me, we have till Thursday. You want me to just defer this one and then we'll vote on it Thursday and I can answer?
Yeah, you could do
okay.
that. Just clarify that.
Yeah.
Just be safe.
So the vast public that's watching us at the moment,
Sorry.
we're going to defer action on this measure till Thursday, March 20th at 3:02. Okay, and then I'll be able to answer questions at that time. We're going to move on to House Bill 860 HD1 relating to liability. Again, the recommendations from the Transportation Committee were to amend section 2 to remove immunity from liability from the bill. Establish that for roads whose jurisdiction is in dispute between the state and the county, the state or county may undertake limited resurfacing of the existing road surface, which shall not extend to any span of bridge or section of street that crosses a culvert without conferring ownership. Third amendment is any additional liability for that road as a result of limited resurfacing pursuant to this act shall be limited to resurfacing and not underlying non-conforming issues. Fourth amendment, in the event of an incident, liability shall be split proportionally to the share of the contributing cause for the incident between the party who resurfaced the road and the party who is responsible for the underlying road, depending upon which is at fault and for how much. This bill will sunset in 5 years and will maintain its effective date. Those are the 6 suggested amendments. Any discussion?
Yeah, Chair, I'll weigh on this. I'm very familiar with this as most of it happens in, has to do with the roads in Limbo, which a great number of them are in my Hamakua district. And this is carryover from plantation days where they just built a road and blacktopped it. So this is a way forward to help our community fix some of the roads. And so I am definitely going to support this. It's a little won't say quirky, but I think it's a way forward because we have so many of these roads in limbo in our districts, especially in Hamakua. So at least we're gonna be able to get some maintenance done because the state doesn't want them and neither does the county, and the private people don't want them either. So nobody wants them, but they want to use them. So we have to do something. So for that reason, I'm going to support it. I think I'm curious about how they're trying to assign the liability, but I think this is the best crack at trying to address this. So I'm going to support it.
Fantastic. Any other discussion?
No, I think Senator Richard said enough. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, well, we don't want to leave this issue in limbo, so we're gonna vote on it. Chair's recommendation is to pass the measure with the stated amendments. Chair votes aye.
Okay, so for HB 860, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. Noting the excusal of Senator Favela of the members present, are there any objections or reservations? Hearing none, the recommendation is adopted.
And members, on the last bill on this deferred agenda is House Bill 1161 HD2 relating to transportation. Transportation Chair has made 3 amendments. We're going to adopt DOT's recommendations to remove hybrid formula inclusion, since report back on how to calculate the formula to prevent double taxation due at the end of the year. Number 2, we're going to add language to insert into SB 1480, expanding use of the state highway fund and highway funds for broader multimodal purposes. And then 3, adopt Alliance for Automobile Innovations recommendations, which were to prohibit counties from assessing additional fees for EVs, zero emission vehicles beyond the average paid by gas vehicles. Those are the 3 suggested amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Chang, I vote yes.
For HB 1161, the Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Of the members present, are there any objections or reservations? Seeing none, the recommendation is adopted.
Great. Thank you, members. We are adjourned.